Hello YouTube, welcome to another Season 6 Patch 6.3 guide by eGaming Television, and in this one we are covering Jungle Nocturne, the Eternal Nightmare.
Embrace the darkness.
If you guys are just looking for certain parts of the guide, such as, say, Nocturne's runes, you can find those in the video description. You can find eGaming TV on Twitter at egaming_TV, and our website for all of our guides is www.egamingtv.com. Nocturne is a relatively high attack damage champion with really strong ganks, which is why he's usually found in the jungle. He's not currently that popular in the 6.3 meta, however, he is still a really strong jungle champion. Let's explore that a bit farther by looking at his pros and cons, starting with the first one, which is he has strong ganks post level 6. Now his ganks before 6 are rather mediocre, but because of his ultimate, he is really strong after 6. At max level, Nocturne can use his ultimate from an astonishing 4,000 range to dash to a single target. Due to that, of course, you don't actually have to be that close to the lane in order to jump onto a squishy target. This also has high base damage with 120% bonus AD, which is really high for an AD ability, and we will be looking at this more when we get to the R page. This ultimate, combined with the fact that he gets high movement speed from his Q and he's able to flee people with his E, makes him one of the strongest gankers in the game. Nocturne's next pro is that he's got good late game. Early on, he's just a champion that has pretty solid ganks, but late game he turns into a bruiser that actually adds a lot of damage. Nocturne's even got the ability to block one spell with his W, and if he can block the right spell, he can be really hard to bring down. Another pro Nocturne has is that he has a fast clear speed in the jungle. This is mostly due to the fact that his Q does an AoE, as well as his passive, which has a 10-second cooldown, and is reduced by 1 second on each basic auto attack. Because of this fast clear speed and the fact that he does have a spell blocker on his W, he is also rather hard to invade. He usually won't be at the camps most junglers would be at, and if you do find him, he will block a spell and simply run out of the jungle. You don't always have to do this, however, because of his next pro, which is he is a strong duelist. He has all the things you'd want in a duelist. He has some sort of CC, he can block spells, and he has high attack damage. Oh, and by the way, he's rather tanky. Keep in mind, however, he is not the strongest duelist in the game, however, he is easily on the top half of the jungler list. Most of this honestly depends on what you can block with your W. If you block Lee Sin's Q, you're probably going to kick his ass because his damage goes down significantly. Nocturne's first set of cons is that he needs to farm a lot, and he's rather gold dependent. Without items, he's a squishy melee champion that does no damage. However, when he does get the items listed in this build, he adds a ton of damage to team fights and he is insanely hard to bring down. The way I and most people play Nocturne is simply farm until you have your ultimate, gank a lane, and then go back into farming mode. With a solid coordinated gank from Nocturne, you're usually able to at least bring down people's summoners, or usually kills. Early game, you can bring down a champion, push the lane, try to take the tower, back, and go back into jungle and farm up. Nocturne's next set of cons is that he doesn't really have much early game pressure, and he is dependent on his ultimate. As I previously mentioned, before 6, he doesn't really have much. He simply walks into lane, tosses his Q, hopes it lands, and tries to get a flee. However, in most cases, the enemy champion will simply usually walk away, or maybe flash if he was in a shitty position. Because of how poor your ganks are in the early game, usually you want to try to farm for 6 as fast as possible. However, if lanes really need you, of course, offer them a gank. For our masteries, me and almost every other Nocturne player I do see go for 12 ferocity and 18 resolve, getting strength of the ages as their keystone mastery. If you're somebody who thinks you have to do as much damage as possible so you can carry games, the best alternative would be Thunderlord's Decree, but I really like strength of the ages on Nocturne myself. So we start in Ferocity by first getting Fury for 4% attack speed, and of course this just helps us clear the jungle a bit faster. Since Nocturne is kind of an assassin that's also somewhat tanky, we take Double-Edged Sword. Since he is melee, he gets 3% additional damage and takes 1.5% additional damage as well. Usually you will find yourself ultimating onto a rather squishy target, and since you want to bring it down as soon as possible, this is a great thing to have. To get just a little bit more sustain, we get Vampirism, so we get 2% lifesteal, and Spell Vamp. Since we have a Flee in our kit, which is a reliable impaired movement, we get Oppressor, so we deal 2.5% increased damage to targets with impaired movement. As for the Resolve side of things, we start by getting Recovery, so we get 2 health per 5 seconds. This just helps us get a little bit more regen in the jungle. To take just a little bit less damage in the jungle as well, we then get Tough Skin, so we take 2 less damage from champion and neutral monster basic attacks. We follow that up with Runic Armor, so our shields, healing, regeneration, and lifesteal on us are 8% stronger. Now I can already see the people asking why don't we take Veteran Scars, it's not like he's got a crazy shield or healing, but even without lifesteal items, his passive does provide a lifesteal, which is really nice, and just having some extra regen is also a great thing to have. We then move into Insight, so we reduce the cooldown of our summoner spells by 15%. Flashing a bit more often is awesome. We then grab Swiftness, so we get 15% tenacity and slow resist, and since Nocturne is a melee champion that can be kited somewhat, this is a great thing to have on him. Lastly is our Keystone Mastery, which is called Strength of the Ages. Siege minions and large monsters that you or nearby allied champions kill grant 20 and 10 permanent health, respectively, 300 max. After reaching the max bonus, these kills instead restore 6% of your maximum health. So the first obvious reason that this is good is you get 300 health on top of what you would normally have, and when you are sieging, any siege minions that you're killing is restoring 6% of your health. Since Nocturne does transition into a somewhat tanky bruiser late game, having the extra 300 health is a really nice thing to have. For Nocturne's runes, we get 9 greater marks of attack damage, 9 greater seals of armor, 6 greater glyphs of scaling cooldown reduction, 3 greater glyphs of magic resist, and 3 greater quintessences of attack speed. In total, this gives us 8.55 attack damage, 4 magic resist, 9 armor, 10% cooldown reduction at level 18, and 13.5% attack speed. Since Nocturne doesn't really make great use of a black cleaver and stuff of that sort, getting cooldown reduction on him can sometimes be hard. Because of the item build that we do go for, having that 10% cooldown reduction from the runes really helps. The rest of the runes give us some nice defensives and as much damage as possible from the quints and the marks. The summoners, like 80% of the other junglers, is Flash and Smite. Flash has a lot of defensive and offensive uses. This can allow you to escape from champions or to be used to chase opponents if needed. You can also combo this with your ultimate to close an even bigger gap on your target. I've had tons of cases on Nocturne where somebody is barely out of my ultimate range, and simply you can just flash and then ultimate on top of them. Smite is a must-have on junglers as it increases your jungler clear speed and can be used to secure dragons and Baron. Since we take a Stalker's Blade on Nocturne, Smite can also be used offensively to steal 20% movement speed from a target. Alright, so let's start off Nocturne's abilities by starting with his passive, which is called Umbra Blades. Nocturne's basic attack is periodically enhanced, dealing 120% AD physical damage to his target and surrounding enemies, and healing himself for between 10 and 26 per enemy hit. Basic attacks also reduce Umbra Blade's cooldown by 1 second, and the static cooldown is 10 seconds. A static cooldown means it does not actually get reduced by cooldown reduction, it will only get reduced when you are basic attacking people. In short, this is just a really great thing to have in the jungle as it provides an AoE damage and it heals yourself. In teamfights this may proc on multiple people, however the range is not that amazing, so it does not happen that often. When it does though, it's just a nice little burst of damage on multiple enemies. But like I said, this is mainly a good thing for the jungle and pushing lanes. Now we're going to look at Nocturne's Q, which is called Dustbringer, and this is our main ability that we level. Nocturne sends out a Shadow Blade in a line that leaves a dusk trail on its path, dealing physical damage to enemies it passes through, and causing enemy champions hit to also leave a dusk trail behind their movement for 5 seconds. The physical damage this ability deals is between 60 and 240 base, plus 75% bonus AD. While Nocturne is on the dusk trail, Nocturne is ghosted and gains bonus movement speed and attack damage. The movement speed is between 15 and 35%, and the bonus AD goes from 15 to 55. The range of the ability is 1200, the speed is 1400, the cost goes from 60 to 80 mana, and the cooldown is 10 seconds. This is great in both the jungle and fights. In jungle, you can shoot it through multiple creeps so they take the AoE damage, and you get bonus AD when you're standing in it so you can clear them faster. In teamfights, when you do land this, they take a high amount of damage, but also leave the dusk trail so you can chase them a lot faster than a normal champion. This will allow you to get close enough to toss on your E so you can flee them. This actually even has one more use, and that's for escaping. Nocturne doesn't actually have a way to create a gap, however he can use this to get the bonus movement speed, so he's able to run away faster. Nocturne's next ability is his W, which is called Shroud of Darkness. For the passive, Nocturne empowers his blades permanently, gaining bonus attack speed, and the attack speed is between 20 and 40%. When activated, Nocturne creates a barrier that blocks the next enemy ability that hits him within the next 1.5 seconds. If Nocturne blocks an ability, Shroud of Darkness's bonus attack speed is doubled for 5 seconds. The cost is 50 mana, and the cooldown starts at 20, losing 2 per rank and ending at 12 seconds. Now this is a very good ability, however it is not as good as the Q and the E, so we do max it last. We mainly just need one early point into this ability, so we do get the ability to block people's spells. A really good reason that he is a good duelist is that he can block a spell first of all, but when he does, he gets between 40 and 80% attack speed for 5 seconds. With the high attack damage that Nocturne does get early on, this can equal to a shitload of damage. That brings us to our E, which is called Unspeakable Horror. For the passive, Nocturne gains 335 bonus movement speed when moving toward fleeing targets. This sounds like a shitload of movement speed, however it doesn't actually have that big of an impact on the game considering the flee duration is rather short. So for the active, Nocturne plants nightmares into the target's mind, dealing magic damage over 2 seconds and forming a tether between him and his target. If the target does not break the tether by moving out of range, they flee from Nocturne for a short duration. The magic damage of this is between 80 and 260 plus 100% AP, and the flee duration is between 1 and 2 seconds, gaining 0.25 seconds every rank. The cast range is 425 and the tether range is 465. The cost is between 60 and 80 mana, and the cooldown starts at 15 seconds, losing 1 per rank, ending at 11. Now, even though this is based off of your AP, which of course we do not build on Nocturne, the base damage does go really high and the flee duration does, so that is why we max this second instead of our W. Other than that, late game, this is pretty much just a way to make sure that we can stick onto our target for at least 2 seconds. The only way to get out of the tether range is by flashing over a wall or something, so usually the flee will happen, unless of course they have flash. Now it's the big poppy of his abilities, which is called Paranoia, and it is his ultimate. Like the name does say, you should be pretty paranoid when there is a Nocturne in the game because of this ability. Nocturne applies near sight to all enemy champions for 4 seconds. Now a champion that is nearsighted has their sight radius reduced by 900 and loses their allied vision, meaning what their allied champions are able to see. In game, this pretty much just looks like a ton of fog of war around you, and you're not able to see a whole lot. As soon as this happens, people instantly get paranoid, thinking Nocturne is going to jump on them any second. So while Paranoia is active, Nocturne can activate it again to dash to the target enemy champion, dealing them physical damage. The physical damage this deals is between 150 and 350 base, plus 120% bonus AD. God damn, that's high. The radius for the near sight is global, every enemy champion experiences it, and the range for the actual dash is between 2500 and 4000, depending on the rank of your ultimate. The cost is always 100 mana, and the cooldown starts at 150 seconds, losing 25 per rank, ending at 100 seconds. The combo, if you are on a single enemy, will be hitting them with Paranoia and then hitting them with the Q and the E. This will start the flee on them, and you will have the movement speed to remain within the tether range from your Q. After the flee duration is over, you then may want to activate your spell shield, which is your W, if you feel that they are going to turn around and hit you with a spell. If you know for a fact that enemy champions are near the person you are ultimating, you may want to use your spell shield right away, so you will stick on that target and get the flee off. With all the abilities covered, we're going to look at his ability order, which, like always, starts with his ultimate, which is called Paranoia. You take it at 6, 11, and 16. Your first basic ability you level is then Duskbringer, which is your Q. You take it at 1, 4, 5, 7, and 9. You then follow this up with your E, which is called Unspeakable Horror. You take it at 3, 8, 10, 12, and 13. Finally is your W, which is called Shroud of Darkness. You take it at 2, 14, 15, 17, and 18. You only really need the single point in this early on, so you get a bit more attack speed and the ability to block abilities. Nocturne's item build starts with a Hunter's Machete, Health Potions, and a Warding Totem. This is the best combination of items for Nocturne to start clearing the jungle. For our early game, we then get a Stalker's Blade, some Vision Wards to clear out the vision, and Boots of Speed. For our core build, we enchant our Stalker's Blade with Warrior, get a Yumo's Ghost Blade, and Boots of Swiftness. This in combination gives us a lot of attack damage, 20% cooldown reduction, 20 armor penetration, and a nice activate which gives us 20 movement speed and 40 attack speed for 6 seconds. The Boots of Swiftness then, of course, also allows us to stick to our target. When we are level 9, we also want to make sure that we have a Farsight alteration. This little item is actually incredible on Nocturne. If somebody is a decent distance away and you wish you could ultimate them, but you don't actually have vision on them because of Fog of War, you can simply drop this near them so you actually have vision, and then ultimate on top of them. The example build I've listed, which I almost always get against a mixed team, starts with a Stalker's Blade, which is enchanted with Warrior, followed by a Yumu's Ghost Blade and Boots of Swiftness, a Steraks Gauge, Dead Man's Plate, and a Maw. In combination, this gives us a lot of attack damage, some decent cooldown reduction, a nice active from the Ghost Blade, some great armor from the Dead Man's Plate, and magic resist from the Maw, and a lot of health with a nice proc shield from the Steraks. This makes us do a lot of damage, and makes us really hard to bring down. One great alternative I did list, which I actually get a lot, and did in this video, is a Titanic Hydra. Gives some nice damage, and can AoE some teams that are relatively clumped together usually. Another great alternative, if you do want to do more damage, would be a Blade of the Ruined King. It's great because it gives a bunch of AD, some lifesteal, and an amazing activate. If you're against a really high AD team, then you may want to get a Randuin's, and vice versa. If you're against a high magic dealing damage team, you may want to get the Spirit Visage. Another alternative I didn't actually show, but is somewhat decent, would be cooldown reduction boots. In the example full build, you do only get 20% cooldown reduction from items and 10 from the runes, so if you wanted 40, you could get those. However, since I really want to stick to targets, I really like the Boots of Swiftness and am willing to miss 10% cooldown reduction. That pretty much covers everything I've got to share on Nocturne. If you guys like this video, please like and subscribe, and if you would like to talk to us on Twitter, you can do that at egaming_TV. For more of our guides and a nice little list, you can go to www.egamingtv.com and go to the Champion Guides section. Thank you guys for watching this guide, and I hope to see you guys around Twitter and the eGaming TV YouTube channel.